Over 70% of carts are abandoned on Shopify. These are high quality people leaving your website without purchasing, never to be seen again. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a high converting abandoned cart flow so you can start winning some of these people back. Now if you're new to the channel, my name is Derek and I'm the founder of Ascend Media, where we help 7- and 8-figure D2C brands generate more profit and revenue with email and retention strategies. So let's dive in. All right, guys. So the very first thing you're going to want to do here is jump in and create your flow trigger. So the easiest way to do that is just go into flows on the left-hand side, go to create flow. And then all you need to do, Klaviyo makes it super easy. You just need to search for cart. So it's going to give you 10 different options here. Now I'm going to stop here just for a sec because it's really important to differentiate the abandoned checkout and the abandoned cart. Most people, when they're talking about abandoned cart, are really talking about the abandoned checkout. Klaviyo does this really weird thing where they call abandoned cart, and they call abandoned checkout, abandoned cart. So they have two different flows that are called the exact same thing. I don't know why they do this, but literally everyone has said like, this makes absolutely no sense. So what you'll see here is you'll see added to cart trigger right here. And you'll see if you click on this one, the trigger is actually checkout started. It's not added to cart. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to focus on the abandoned checkout because that is what 99% of people are talking about when they're talking about the abandoned cart. And it is also the flow that will generate you more revenue 95% of the time. Also, just so you know, this is where this will show up. So if you go into the product page, you go to the product, you add to cart, that's where the added to cart trigger is. If you go to the checkout page, this is where the checkout started is. So that's what's going to be triggered. The reason why this is typically a lot higher revenue producing is because you're actually gathering people's email in this step. And oftentimes it's, first name, last name, etc. as well. So once you've gone ahead and found this flow, you're going to want to name it something that is, I usually just call this we call this the abandoned checkout. And then we have our nomenclature. I'm going to use that template. So it doesn't really matter which one of those templates you use as long as you have the checkout started trigger. So what I'm going to do next is go in here and actually I'm going to delete this conditional split because we're not going to be using that. I'm going to delete the yes path because that is the SMS. And then I'm going to go in here and take a look at the filters. So this is an area where a lot of people drop the ball, but it is really important. You don't want the wrong people getting this email. So one of the biggest mistakes we see brands make here is when someone goes and submits their email here, that is the trigger that adds them into the newsletter list. And based off of that, they're getting the welcome series flow. Well, if you don't have exclusions and if you don't have the right triggers and filters on your flows, people are going to be getting the welcome series and the abandoned checkout at the same time. So that list that people are added to should be a different list other than the one that is triggering the welcome series. So the flow filters you're going to want to use here, these ones are relatively standard. You're going to have the placed orders 0 times, and you're also going to have has not been in this flow in the last 7 days. You can change this depending on your brand. If you don't want people to be in this again for the next 30 days, you can do that as well. Because the last thing you want is for people to be getting this like every single time they add to cart. You also are going to want to make some other exclusions here just so that the wrong people aren't getting in. Again, it's kind of going to depend a little bit on what you have set up already and kind of the structure of your business. So other filters you're going to want to add in here are going to be things like, spam filters. So making sure that people who have a spam email are getting through, making sure that, hey, if someone bounced since entering the flow. So one of the examples that I would probably add in would be what someone has or has not done, and then bounced email, I would say 0 times since starting this flow. Again, you don't want to hit them. Like if your abandoned checkout sequence is like 6 emails or 9 emails or 10 emails, like you don't want to hit them up every single time if their email, the first email you sent to them bounced. That's a big red flag. The other ones you might want to consider are, we'll have a filter later on for people who have purchased versus not purchased. Those are some kind of like core filters that we'll usually add in, but oftentimes we're going to make this a little bit more robust based off of the specific client needs. So the next piece that you're going to want to look at is the dynamic elements. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this email. Okay. So there's going to be a few things that you're going to want to add in here. So the first thing we'll often add is the first name, because oftentimes we're going to collect people's first name in this field right here. Sometimes we don't, which is why we'll have a backup. So we'll say, and what I'm going to say is add this personalization tag. I'm going to say first name, and then the default text, which is what shows up if we don't have their first name, is going to be there. So I'm going to insert that here. And I'm also going to add a little, hey, So, hey there, or hey, first name, comma, your cart is saved, but these items won't last forever, whatever, yada, yada. We're not doing copywriting right now. So that's the first personalization piece. The other piece is just the dynamic product element. So oftentimes it's going to spit out some kind of gross looking design. This is terrible. It looks like it's 4 different brands. I mean, these aren't even products that they sell. So definitely you're going to have to make some tweaks here and make this your own. The other element here that I mentioned is this dynamic product block. So usually what we're going to want to do here is edit this so that it looks a little bit better. And usually what that's going to consist of is, making this, adding some padding on. So for example, if I preview this, it's probably going to look pretty, it looks kind of meh. If I look at it on mobile, same kind of deal. It's not, it's definitely not a sexy design, but nonetheless, you might want to make some changes to it. And this is how you could make those tweaks. So you go ahead and add that block padding so you can add a little bit more space on each side of those. But one thing that so many people do not do is add a conditional statement for the products. Because what you don't want, if you have, for example, a shipping protection product, you don't want to be hitting people up and being like, did you forget your shipping protection? Like that's not great, right? It just kind of seems like a bit of a dingus move. So definitely don't want to have that in there. But what so many brands do is they neglect to exclude those, and it's not too hard to do, but it is really important to do. So I'd go in here, and what you do, you need to do a little bit of coding. Don't worry, I'm not a coder. What you need to do is add in an if statement, and I'll show you how it works. So you go in, this is the if statement. So if the item product title, and you can just copy this, contains shipping protection by route, this you would replace with whatever the product title is. This is really important. And I'll show you, I'll run a test for you here in just a second. And then you need to close that if statement at the very end. You'll see it already has one in there, but you actually need another one because there's another if statement. There we go. I'm going to click save. And then you're going to want to do the exact same thing for the text block. So the text block, same deal. You want to copy that up here or paste that up here, and then paste the end if statement down here. Now, for the sakes of this video, they don't have that specific shipping protection. So I'm going to go ahead and preview this, and I'll show you how to do it with this product, let's say, right? So I'm going to copy this. That's the product name. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into that dynamic section, that dynamic image section. I'm going to replace that shipping protection by route with this, the product name. I'm going to keep that if statement at the very end. I'm going to click save. And then what you'll see, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing with the text block. Go ahead, that in here. Just give me a sec. I need to add that if statement first. So we'll copy that in, paste that there, remove that, and then we'll add the end if at the very end. And obviously we don't want to do this for this client, but this is just an example to show you how it'll exclude. So what you'll see is you'll see this at the top and this at the bottom. And then in this one, you'll see if product contains this, and you can kind of like preview that there. So now when I go to preview this, there's going to be nothing that shows up. See, there's no product. This is literally just back to my cart. And the reason for that is because I excluded this product and I didn't want it to show up. So I would recommend doing that for any sort of shipping protection or any products you just, don't necessarily want to include in this. Be careful with that, because if someone only checks out one product and then they get your abandoned cart sequence and there is no product, it's going to look like this and it's going to be hella weird. So that is essentially how you do that. And it's honestly one of the things that most brands completely neglect to do, but doing that and that alone will help improve your abandoned checkout sequence. Okay, so where so many brands get this wrong is their sequence is too short, it's too boring, or it just doesn't hit on real objections. Most brands, their sequence looks something like, hey, did you forget something? Oh, your cart misses you. Do you want 10% off, 20% off, 30% off? Oh, screw it. Just take 50% off or take the product for free, right? At the end of the day, this is such a huge missed opportunity because you're not hitting on people's real objections. Okay, so how do you do it right? Well, the first email is just a quick reminder. The timing of this is usually going to be split test between a 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, and 4 hour delay. The objection we're handling here is that they simply just got distracted. The subject line is going to be simple and direct. We're predominantly going to want to show those abandoned cart items. We're going to have a very clear call to action, and there's going to be absolutely no discount yet. Okay, so doing that initial split test of send time is really beneficial, and I just wanted to show you how to actually build that out in here. So how you do that is you just need a conditional split, and I usually do it right at the very beginning. I'm going to do 3 here, and the reason you might want to do 3 or 4 or just 2 is just really predominantly dependent on how much traffic you have. If you have a lot of traffic, you could do a 4-way split, but if you have not very much traffic, you might only want to do a 2-way split just to test and get more meaningful data, because if you don't have a ton of traffic, it's going to take forever for you to figure out what's working and what's not. Okay, so what we would do first here is set up this first conditional split, and what we want is a random sample of 34% of people. I'm going to say we're just going to do a three-way split here, 34% there, going to yes. And then we're going to add this in, random sample, and we're going to do 50-50. So you got to keep that in mind too. So you've got 34% going to this side, and then the remaining amount, which is 66%, you just want it split 50-50, right? So then what you would do is you would duplicate these out. And there's a few different ways you can actually go about doing this, but you could go clone, change that time delay to 2 hours. What you do want to make sure you're doing is you're testing out radically different send times. So like, I wouldn't just want to split test 2 hours versus 4 hours, but if I'm doing, 2 hours versus 4 hours versus 30 minutes, that's a lot more different. So you're going to get different results. If you test the same things, you're going to get the same results. So I'm going to say, okay, and then you can just duplicate these and duplicate it again. Sometimes you could duplicate you could duplicate whichever one you want there. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect this back up. And then what I will often do is just continue to duplicate these out, just so you could turn off an entire section of the flow or turn on an entire section of the flow. You can also just rejoin these back in after that first email has gone out. It kind of just depends on what you want there. Okay, so email number 2 is going to be more focusing on social proof and the benefits of the product. This is going to be going out anywhere from 22 to 24 hours after email 1. The objection we're really trying to handle here is more so based off of trust. And really what we try to do, like I said, is focus on the benefits, focus on customer reviews. You can see we've got like 3 reviews in this example, address common objections that people have, highlight some USPs, and also including some trust signals. So if they've been featured, or if the client or you have been featured in certain PR, or if you've been featured on certain articles or TV shows or whatever it is, whatever is relevant to your end customer, this is an opportunity to share that. So email 3 is just handling different objections here and other objections that people might have. It kind of just depends on your brand, but for example, one of our clients sells frozen seafood, and one of the objections that they receive sometimes is, well, like, how do I know that this is actually going to arrive fresh? Well, this is where what we do is we actually tackle that objection. We say, hey, you know what? We guarantee it'll arrive fresh. Here's how we do it. So we try to get past that objection that people might have without them even having to reach out and ask about it. So other things you might want to focus on here, you could address like deeper objections. You could address product specific benefits if you want to do some segmentation there. You could also be a little bit more heavy on user generated content, or even create a little bit more urgency. This is really, it's a 1-day delay. So after that second email, it's 1 day after that one. Again, though, depending on your product, if you got a much longer buying cycle, you might actually want to space that out a little bit more too. Okay, so email number 4, this is going to vary depending on your brand, but oftentimes we'll do a discount. The reason we do it on email number 4 and not email number 1 is because we want to handle the non-pricing related objections first, and then we want to deal with the pricing objection, because that is in reality a objection that people might have. Usually this is going to be delayed by at least 1 day, but oftentimes we're going to delay it by at least 2 days here. And again, like I said, we're dealing with that pricing objection. We're offering people a discount, and the core thing here that we're going to want to do is make sure we're segmenting for non-purchasers only. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm just going to share my screen here again. Okay, so the way that you do that is you just need to go in here, and again, we're creating another conditional split. So I'm going to go ahead, create that conditional split, and then the split I'm going to do is say what someone has or has not done. I'm going to say placed order, and I'm going to say there's 2 different ways you could do this. 0 times overall time. Right? What this is going to do, I'm going to click save. So profiles that meet the following conditions will move to the yes side. So they've placed an order 0 times, then they will move to the yes side. If they have placed an order before, they're moving to the no side. So I'm going to go ahead, and the next step would be to build out that email 4. I'm just going to copy this. The next step would be to build the email 4 right down here. And this one would be handling that pricing objection. So for some of our clients, we're actually building out 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or even 10 emails in the abandoned checkout sequence. Now, the reason that we do this, and what we're going to do, is not just have the same thing 10 different times, but we're going to handle different objections. So if we've got a product that takes a very long time to buy, or might have a lot of different objections, or they're willing to do a little bit of a steeper discount or things like that, there's a lot we can do here. And as long as it keeps working, I'd continue to add more emails on. So for example, if as a benchmark, we usually say if it's getting at least a 1% placed order rate, we're going to continue building that out. Now, other things you might want to focus in these emails could be deeper discounts. Like I said, you can go a little little bit deeper on the discounts. You could do free trials. If you have a free trial, you don't really want to promote it too much, but hey, if someone's got to email 7 and they still haven't purchased, let's see if we can, push them and just try the product. And if you've got a really great product, they'll probably come back and buy it again. And then also, this is a really great one that not a lot of brands do, but just ask why people abandon, right? Ask them, see what's going on. Send a more kind of like customer centric email. It doesn't want you don't want this to actually be something that is designed. You want this to be more authentic and honestly, like kind of feel like someone's reaching out and being like, hey, notice you didn't purchase, like what's going on? So those are some of the kind of like email ideas and what you want to have as content in those emails. Now, the next piece here is just some advanced strategies. So this is, once you've got the foundations, you can start building upon these things. So the first thing is conditional splits. I showed you a little bit about like what kind of conditional splits we can do, but these are some other ideas that work really, really well for our clients. The first one is cart value. So if you've got radically different cart values, you might want to have different discounts. If you're going to have a discount on email 4, email 5, or even further along, the next type of conditional splits you can do here would be like product or category or collection splits. This is where, let's say you've got one like kind of kingpin product. Let's say it generates 70% of your sales. Maybe you have a flow specifically for that product and it's handling objections specifically related to that product and highlighting benefits specifically related to that product. Same kind of thing with categories or collections. If you've got different collections, like let's say you've got men's and women's and kids or whatever it is, you would probably want to have different flows for each one of those. And you can do that using conditional splits. And the last thing here you can do is leveraging that zero-party data to build out more customized flows based off of people's desired outcomes. So I hope you're collecting zero-party data in your pop-up. And if you are, I'm going to give you an example of kind of what you can do there. One of our clients sells soup and we gather some zero-party data on, hey, like, what are you really looking for from your soup? What are the benefits you're looking for? What is your desired outcome, essentially? And based off of that, what we'll do is we'll build out flows specific for each one of those desired outcomes, right? So if someone's desired outcome is to improve gut health, those people are getting a flow specifically stating why that product or the products that they're looking at or the products in general or the brand is specifically great for them in their journey to try to improve their gut health. So it's like really making this customer journey more personalized, and it makes people feel like, holy hell, like this is like just made for me. It makes me feel so much more relevant to the brand. So A/B testing is another big thing you can do here. A/B testing subject lines, A/B testing email content or different objections that people might have. For example, your first one might be just a gentle reminder. The second one might be handling social proof. And the third one, maybe you have like 3 or 4 different objections. Split test one objection against another. Try to keep everything else similar. Keep the subject lines as similar as humanly possible and just change the objection that you're trying to handle in that email and see which one works better, right? Split testing send times as well. I kind of went through that at the very beginning. And then also split testing different discount strategies. I would recommend starting with a lower discount and then building up if you are that type of brand. If not, then just ignore what I just said. In terms of some best practices here, make sure, for the love of God, you turn off smart sending on this flow. Keep your copy just concise and more like action focused. And then also make sure you're A/B testing. This should be number 1 or number 2 in terms of how much revenue it generates. It's one of the biggest opportunities for you to do some A/B testing. Now, some of the most common mistakes I see brands make is number 1, like I said, flows are too short, over relying on discounts. So you just come in hot and heavy and you're like, here's 30% off. You're just trying to handle that one objection and it doesn't work very well. Generic messaging, poor mobile optimization, lack of segmentation, and inconsistent branding. So just make sure we're spot on with this. These are some of the biggest pitfalls that I see. Now you know how to set up an abandoned cart flow better than 90% of the brands and agencies out there. You need the right abandoned cart flow for your business though, if you really want to maximize the impact from email. Now, to ensure you're getting the most out of your email marketing, if you want to book in a free strategy call with me, you can do so by clicking the first link in the description below. Once you've done that, I'm going to show you the next video where I show you 5 systems that you should know as an e-com founder. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.